Hello and welcome to the Battle Room. My name is Colin, and today I want to talk about teams that are going to make a pretty big splash, in my opinion, at the first regional in North America. I think it's really important to have answers to these teams and be prepared to play them or be prepared to use them, in my opinion. I think they're three really, really strong teams, and I think we're going to see a lot of them played. Obviously, there's going to be slight variance and differentiations, and I'll talk about those when I go over each team. So let's start off with Charizard Sun. Charizard Sun is a team that I personally find a lot of enjoyment in playing. It's my most comfortable team at the moment, I would say. And yeah, I think it's really, really consistent and really strong. And I think, so first off, I want to mention the Grimmsnarl. I think the Trick Grimmsnarl is a little bit dated. We saw Joe almost win the International Challenge with a light screen Grimmsnarl, and I think we're going to see more of a shift to that. It makes the team more consistent, it makes a lot more sense, and it doesn't rely on the Trick gimmick. I do think there will be players who use the Trick gimmick who didn't really get the memo that we're moving on, but I do think that overall it is a pretty strong and consistent team. Groudon's not really going to change. I think Zacian could get bulkier. Charizard could be different Pokemon. It could be Thundurus, it could be Zapdos. It could remain the Charizard. I use the Choice Scarf set on mine, but I don't think you'll see that very often. That was just something I thought was really fun. But I think that we'll see a lot more potential Chardy Berry, potential Waken Berry. Resistance Berries are pretty good on Charizard. And also, we might see Life Orb as well, just for big, big damage. I think the Gastrodon slot can change, but I think the main core of Zacian, Groudon, Incin, Grimmsnarl is just really, really disgusting and really, really strong. If I were to be going to the regional, this is probably the team I would use. I probably would have practiced more, but this is the team I have the most comfort with now. I think it's really, really strong and very consistent. It has a lot of good moving pieces that a good player can just abuse. I think it's a great team. This one really doesn't have as many variations as the other ones. But I think Zacian Groudon does make a lot of sense. It's very good versus the Kyogre plus Zacian teams. So I think that this team will be seen at the regional. I could see it definitely doing well top cutting. Obviously, there's tons of variations you can do. You can slap Venusaur on. Sun has a lot of options, and I think that Sun players are actually starting to explore Sun more now, whereas in the past it was mainly Kyogre players exploring Kyogre. Speaking of Kyogre, we've got the most boring standard Kyogre team in the format. This team is pretty boring, but pretty strong. I think we can see a lot of different variations on this one as well. I think we will. I think a Solvus Kyogre isn't locked in, and I don't think, I think a Solvus Rillaboom is very real. I know Joe used a Solvus Rillaboom. On this version, I have a Solvus Kyogre, but yeah, it definitely can change with what the needs of the team are, and I think that we might see, Mystic Water Kyogre paired with the Solvus Rillaboom. I could see Grimmsnarl being opted out for like something like Tornadus, but for the most part, this is the kind of team you're going to see. I think the strengths of this team are similar to the one that we looked at before, where Zacian is just really, really good, and having a Weather Setter with Zacian is good because it allows you to fight the other Weather Setters more effectively. Also, Kyogre Zacian is a pairing as old as time. It's just really, really consistent and really good. Zapdos is a very, very crucial part of this team, and it's been probably one of the more important pieces for a while. I think Zapdos pairs extremely well of Zacian, Kyogre. Those three together make a disgusting core. You really can run anything. We saw already throughout the tournaments that they've paired stuff like Ferrothorn with this. They've gotten rid of Grimmsnarl. They had Whimsicott there or Tornadus. But I think those three Pokemon are going to be the backbone of the teams that do well with this core. Now, I think Incin is obviously very, very good too with this core. I don't think it's changing. This one has a Sash variant, but Incin is so malleable and flexible that you really don't have to run Sash. On this team, I have Sash, but I really don't think you need Sash, and I think that you can change it up as you see fit. And I think it's just more of up to the creator's decision and what they think they need going into the tournament. I think Zacian can also be very bulky on this team. It could be bulky on the Groudon team as well, but I think that on this team you'll see a lot more bulky Zacians. Rillaboom, again, the items are going to change, but I think high horsepower is the most important move on this. High horsepower is kind of what's making Rillaboom really, really potent right now, so I think having high horsepower is a big, big deal. And yeah, overall, I think this team is really consistent, and there's a lot of options. Like Zapdos can be safety goggles, you can run Eerie Impulse on it, you can run Heat Wave. Like, it's really up to what you think you see fit. Obviously, all these teams I'm showing you again are not like 100% the teams people are going to use, but I think the 6 Pokemon may be the same, but different movesets and stuff. I think Grimmsnarl doesn't really change off this set. It could add Foul Play, but overall this one's not going to change. But Zapdos can be really flexible. Kyogre can again run like Hyper Beam. It can run like not AV. It could be Mystic Water. It could be Life Orb. Life Orb Kyogre is making quite the splash right now. And then this would shift to a different item. So I think overall these 6 Pokemon are super solid, super consistent. And I think that this is a team that you're going to see a lot of, and I think a lot of players will pick this one. Same with this one. I think these teams are like the mid-tier players' dream. Like, they're really consistent, really strong, and if those players have a really good tournament, they could see themselves cutting. But if they don't play as well as they need to, then they're not going to do well at the tournament. And I think that's just like a lot of the times how these kind of teams are. The really, really popular teams are picked up by the mid-tier players, and they use them and they do well with them. And then the really, really good players sometimes use these, but generally they have their own adaptations and own little spices, like little changes they make to put themselves ahead of the pack, because I think that's usually what you need to do. Using these 6 Pokemon verbatim does work for some players, but I think for the most part, you have to add a little bit of variation to make it your own. I think that does help a lot, especially when players aren't necessarily prepared. Like if there was a Ferrothorn, for example, over Rillaboom, something like that, small changes, like usually a Mon change, can go a really, really long way. But I think, again, like making sure you're prepared with these teams is the most important thing, because I think you're going to play these. And if you're playing a mirror, make sure you know how to beat the mirror. And last but not least, this team is probably the one that I'm most interested in, the team that's kind of taking over the ladder at the moment. This is probably one of the more talked about teams, Palkia plus Ice Rider. So Palkia Ice Rider is really weird to me, like, because it just seems like I wrote off Ice Rider right away. I was like, man, this thing's kind of bad. But watching these teams find success and doing as well as they are has me really interested in Palkia. I could see potential world champions using this team, if you know what I'm saying. And I think that Calyrex Palkia has a lot of cool combos, and so these are 6 Pokemon that you could use. But what's really interesting about this core is I would say that it really is up to the creator. I've seen variations with Indeedee Dusclops. I've seen variations with Noalecki, and it's just like hard Trick Room. It's like Indeedee, Dusclops, Incin, and Amoonguss. Like, they have double follow me users, and it's just like a hard Trick Room team. So this one is probably the more interesting and more flexible ones. I think obviously having a good matchup versus Calyrex and Palkia is something that you can figure out and you can plan on any team, but I think the supporting cast is really up in the air. Sometimes there's a Max Alecki. This one has a Max Alecki, which is kind of cool. But like the Max Alecki isn't for sure. You could potentially see no Alecki, and there's an Indeedee there, and there's a P2 also. Like, this team is so flexible and so good right now. The strengths I think that come of it is Trick Room is good, and Calyrex does have a really good matchup versus both the Primals. Both Palkia and Calyrex can hit Zacian super effectively. While they don't do well versus Zacian, the supporting cast does help that. We have stuff like Incin, Max Alecki's great here. Mungus to redirect anything does help a ton. I think overall these Pokemon are just really, really good versus everything that's not Zacian, and then they just beat Zacian because they have super effective moves and they have great supporting casts. Like Palkia is amazing versus Groudon and Kyogre, and then so is Calyrex, which Groudon and Kyogre, again, are both on the last 2 teams we showed. Incin hates Palkia. Calyrex doesn't love Incin, but the White Herb does slow down the pacing with Intimidate. So there's a lot of options. Also, you never know what item you're playing into Calyrex. I think this is a fantastic call for the first regional, because you don't know the item. It's closed team sheet. The Calyrex can be Life Orb, it can be Weakness Ball. So you could run Mimikyu with this. You could run Shadow Sneak. You can run Assault Vest Calyrex. You can run White Herb, which I think is cool. You can run Life Orb Palkia. Like, there's a lot of options. Palkia isn't as flexible as the Calyrex is, but I think overall Calyrex Ice is actually amazing. I really was such a hater of Calyrex for such a long time, but now that I'm seeing this team and the stuff that you can do with it and the flexibility of Calyrex, like, I'm kind of a believer. I think this team has a really good shot of winning the regional. Like, not these 6, but the idea of the duo, Palkia and Ice Rider. And I think being prepared for this team is super crucial, because I think a lot of top players are going to bring this, because it's really, really good right now. It's performing really well in high ladder, and I think we currently don't have it figured out. I imagine that there will be a player, the potential champion here could have this matchup completely figured out, and I think they need to if they're going to want to win this regional, because this pair is disgusting. It's a fantastic duo, and it's just showing up. It's just showing up all over high ladder. And I think what's really interesting about it is, like, I think Calyrex and Palkia normally, when they do well, they're paired with Zacian in the case of Palkia, and Kyogre in the case of Calyrex. But Calyrex hasn't been really, really great. But when they're paired with them, you at least have, like, some of the best restricted in the game. But now you're taking, like, 2 mid-level restricteds and pairing them together, and it's super interesting to see it doing so well. And I think it's just it's really cool to see, and I think that we're going to see more restricted duos like this, because you just find weird pairings and weird synergy that you can find, and I think these 2 are just really Trick Room buddies. Like, this team has 3 Trick Room setters, which is absolutely ridiculous, but Trick Room has always been one of the best strategies, and it just makes sense that pairing 2 of the restricteds that set up Trick Room can create really, really good teams. And I think overall this team is awesome. A little Amoonguss week, but It is what it is, and I think it's going to be interesting to see this one's performance because I think this might actually be a champion team right here. Not, again, not these 6, but I think we have a potential champion team. But yeah, those are my 3 picks to watch out for the regional. Maybe to use if you need a team last second. I got you. But yeah, I think these teams are really, really potent, and I'm curious to see how they do at the first North American regional. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to watch the stream. It should be a lot of fun, and I think I'm personally cheering for the Calyrex Palkia. I think they're a really, really good pair, and I'm super excited to see what they can do because I think these 2 are deadly, and I think we might see it at this regional. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. It's a quick video. I just wanted to touch on these 3 teams going into the tournament, the first ever NA tournament in 2 years. So I'm excited to watch it. I won't be playing myself, but I do look forward to my chance to play come May. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a great and amazing day, and I'll see you guys next time. Battle Room out.